we are in fire season. Just want to note that. I spent this morning with Zen Center planning the wildland firefighter retreat at Tassajara for January. Anyway, part of why I'm telling you is because I couldn't print out my what I was going to talk about, and so I had to take a picture of it on my phone. So that's what I'm doing here. It's the Sturgeon full moon. I think there are four super moons this year. There are 2 full moons in August. Pretty beautiful out there. Announcements. This Saturday, finishing up the Tenzo Kyokan, which we'll finish up here Tuesday and Thursday, and then everyone is invited to a Sangha kind of picnic gathering to bring your some kind of seasonal offering and some kind of homage. I'm gonna, just by way of an example, I recently had a watermelon salad with radishes and feta cheese. It was just simply amazing. So I thought, what kind of homage can I do to watermelon? Can I say for watermelon and radishes? It doesn't have to be big and exciting, but watermelon? It's like, so I want each person to think about ingredients that way, and whatever you bring or prepare, to prepare it with the heart of a Tenzo, which we'll talk about in a minute. August 13th, the following weekend, Sunday is the monthly one-day sitting. And then beginning next week, for I think maybe 4 weeks, we do annual way-seeking mind talks, and Sangha members will be, you know who you are. You don't have to worry if you haven't been asked, or maybe you could yearn and then let me know, and then I'll ask you next year. Sangha members will be giving way-seeking mind talks. Thursday, Marianne will give a talk on the precepts to follow this one. I wanted to sort of try to make some link. How to cook your life. Been using this as our primary text. I didn't know, but I sort of think I can't help myself because I don't usually do this. Is I was strangely moved on the way here by the indictment that just happened. I mean, we've had so many indictments, and we've had so many thises and so many that's, and I have to admit that I'm as numb as anyone probably. But there's something about the recent indictment that came. I'm not going to. You can find out about it, but 3 charges that are pretty serious about what happened around the election on January 6th. They're very serious. It really matters who our leaders are. And it really matters who's leading inside of ourselves. So let's not project it out there. Let's keep taking responsibility so that we can embody Dogen's deepest intention in the Tenzo Kyokan and in all of his writings, which is pointing at practice, which is pointing at zazen, which is pointing at ethical behavior. I thought I would just Tenzo Kyokan. So many things I want to say. The beginning of the Tenzo Kyokan says, from ancient times in communities practicing the Buddha's way, there have been 6 offices established to oversee the affairs of the community. Everyone is a disciple of the Buddha and carries out all the activities of a Buddha through their respective offices. The Tenzo is the one who's in charge of the meals, preparing the community's meals, This work has been always carried out by teachers settled in the way, stable in the way, and by others. Don't think somebody else is going to do this for you, who have aroused the bodhisattva spirit within themselves. Such a practice requires exerting all your energies. If a person entrusted with this work lacks such a spirit, then they will only endure, and everyone with them, unnecessary hardships and suffering that will have no value in their pursuit of the way or the world waking up. Precepts. What's the root and the ground of our practice of the bodhisattva spirit, which is the precepts, which are ingredients? Oh, just like watermelon and radishes. It's like, don't kill, don't steal, be a good person. Like, please prepare the ingredients of your life with care, with and for all beings. So I thought I would, that was the very beginning of the Tenzo Kyokan. I thought to finish this out a little, I would share something from Uchiyama, his final chapter in this wonderful little book we've been studying. It's from a chapter called Throwing Your Life into the Abode of the Buddha. Isn't that wonderful? Just throw your life, each moment, completely and fully into the abode of the Buddha. So what is that? Let's see what he might say after so much commentary. Do not immerse yourself in mental and emotional struggles. Don't bypass them, but don't immerse yourself in them. Refrain from committing evil. Interesting, similar languages in the precepts. Neither be attached to life nor to death. Be compassionate towards all sentient beings. Revere that which is superior and do not withhold sympathy from that which is inferior. Do not harbor hatreds nor covet. Do not harbor hatreds nor covet anything. Do not be overly concerned with trivial matters nor grieve over difficulties in your life. Please grieve, but know you're grieving. This is the Buddha. Do not search for the Buddha anywhere else. Returning again to the Tenzo Kyokan, we find the passage, put those things that naturally go on a high place onto a high place, and those things that would be most stable on a low place onto a low place. Things that naturally belong on a high place settle best on a high place, while those things which belong on a low place find their greatest stability there. If there is anything which we should aim for through our work, it must be this: to ensure that those things that belong on a high place and those things that belong in a low place are stable wherever they are. And I think he said something like he didn't like that high and low and but he realized it was a misunderstanding. When I look back upon it now, it seems to me that the error in my thinking was to assume that there existed some sort of place separate from myself into which I had to throw my body and mind above or below. The true self includes the entire world in which it lives. Therefore, there is nothing that is not a part of it. Everything encountered is life. To devote ourselves to everything we encounter and throw our life force into doing just that is quite different than simply exhausting our energies in dualities. Here is where our passion for life as joyful mind manifests the significance of being alive. The same attitude is reflected in the Tenzo Kyokan in the following two passages. You should think only about how best to serve the community. You should think only about how best to serve the community. Having no fear of poverty. As long as your mind is not limited, you will naturally receive unlimited fortune. And the three aspects of this attitude are to see that working for the benefit of others benefits oneself, all beings. To understand that through making every effort for the prosperity of the community, one revitalizes one's own character. And to know that endeavoring to succeed and surpass the ancestors of past generations means to learn from their lives and to value their examples. Indeed, this is the fundamental spirit or attitude of the Bodhisattvas, who vow to actually practice not for their own benefit. Stable. Eyes wide open, body intuitive, breathing in and out, taking care of what's in front of you. To vow to actually practice not for their own benefit alone, but for the benefit of all sentient beings. So it's kind of beautiful that Dogen in Tenzo Kyokan is so practical. It's like he talks about pots, he talks about ladles, talks about thinking about the rice and the sand. He's talking about the whole world. And how do we cook this life? So it all sounds really good, but it seems to me that going forth into our own lives, oh dear, I did print that out. I could give you some of the ingredients of the precepts to think about as we go forward. So I wanted to bring something from Suzuki Roshi. Let's start with really simple version of the precepts. I sent out a more, I officiated a wedding this past weekend or recently, and the couple wrote their own precepts that we said back and forth in the ceremony. And I thought they were so beautiful because of course they're about a marriage, but we're all married to everybody in one way or another, that it would be sweet to bring them forward in this way because it's intimate and personal. But let's start with the 10 clear mind precepts in the most simple way. A disciple of the Buddha protects life, does not kill. A disciple of Buddha gives gifts, does not steal. A disciple of Buddha respects others, does not misuse sexuality. A disciple of Buddha is truthful, does not lie. A disciple of Buddha maintains clarity, does not intoxicate self or others. A disciple of Buddha speaks kindly, does not speak ill of others. A disciple of Buddha is modest, does not praise self at the expense of others. A disciple of Buddha is generous, not possessive of anything. A disciple of Buddha is loving, does not harbor ill will. And a disciple of Buddha cherishes and polishes the three treasures. So here's a little Suzuki Roshi commentary on these. Could just as easily, I think, be talking about the Tenzo Kyokan and carrots and radishes. Those precepts, he says, look like quite common precepts and really nothing special. But that is pretty difficult to observe them. This is a well-known fact. It is quite simple, but it is quite difficult to observe it. And then he laughs, as he often does. He laughs and laughs. So there is some reason why we have to emphasize the 10 precepts. And those precepts in Buddhism have special meaning because our precepts are not to attain some special achievement or some special mentality or spirituality. You know why you do them? At least this is what he says in this moment. You know why you're in the kitchen at Tassajara? You take care of the knives and the cutting boards and the people around you. Why a Tenzo has to be someone immersed in practice? To be a good citizen. Is just why we have to be a Buddhist, you know. There will not be there is no need for all of us to be sages. And then he laughs and he laughs. We're doing this to be good citizens. I've been, someone recommended watching Ken Burns' World War II. It's a very heavy series. War is terrible. Suzuki Roshi came from war. Someone reminded me, just like within a few years of when the bomb was dropped, he came here to teach us. And he came with great joy and he laughed a lot, but he also knew, be good citizens. If we are good enough to be a citizen, that's enough. If we are quite good as a citizen of America, then I think we will not have any more war because we are too good. And then he laughs. If we are just good common citizens, there will be no need to fight. This point is very important for us. Our precepts should be so very common and should be very usual. Those 10 precepts may be, you know, well understood customs among human beings. But sometimes those 10 commandments are set up as a law. Because it's difficult for us to observe them, we have a law. Like if you go into the Tassajara kitchen, you hear it through certain ears, you're going to think they're giving you laws. Like, you have to do this, you have to do this, don't do this, don't do this. You can feel that way in Zen too. So this is an important point. If you understand something as the law, someone may think it is permissible to some extent to do something wrong. It will be permissible if some attorney will say you can do as much as is, to some extent, is good. That is the precepts when they are understood as the law. And sometimes they can be understood as moral rules. Like you're a really good person if you go into the Tassajara kitchen and you get it all right. Of course, the next day you'll go in and probably get it all wrong, or maybe the next moment or whatever. Setting ourselves up in some moral way. In morality, it is rules which we should observe. You should do this. So in morality, we emphasize the negative sense of the precepts. You should do this. You should not do that. That's morality. We've all got this inside of us, right? But this understanding of the rules of human beings does not work properly, because under the moral rules, we do not feel freedom. We have no freedom in the moral realm. But in the religious realm, in the deepest sense, the religious realm, we have two sides of the interpretation of our rules. One is the prohibitory meaning, and one is a more positive meaning. We have to do it, or we want to do it, instead of we should do it. That's where in the Tenzo Kyokan, Dogen talks about what naturally arises is magnanimous mind, big mind, kind mind, parental mind, joyful mind. That's what's here. And the more and more we enter deeply, just take care of what's in front of us fully, throw ourselves into the abode of the Buddha. That's what arises, because that's just the truth of it. When we say we should do it, that is moral precepts. But when we say, I cannot help doing it, I want to refrain from doing something that would cause harm, that is the religious understanding of our rules and of our life. And then you joyfully want to create, I hope you're following me, and so then there's watermelon and radish salads. And that's taking care of the whole world. And you care about how the watermelon was grown. And you care about the planet. And you care about who harvested the watermelon. It goes all the way through. So in this realm, we have freedom. But here, religious faith is wanted. Without faith and without finding out your innermost request, you cannot obtain this kind of freedom. Because when you find out your innermost request, you are being a human being through and through. When we are human, being a human being through and through, we are, Buddha. But how to be Buddha? We must obtain perfect freedom. So when we find out our true nature, when you find out the depth of your own heart and how you truly want to live and meet each moment, that's Buddha. And then you can't do anything wrong. You just respond to this moment and the next moment and the next moment. That is why we should observe our precepts. So we do not observe our precepts by any gaining idea. Just to be a human being is the purpose of living the precepts. There is no other purpose. Just to observe the precepts because we want to do it. That's all. That's the precepts. That's the 10 prohibitory precepts. That's how you cook your food. Use all your strength and effort of your lives and concentrate them into this one day, this one time, so that you may form a strong connection to the Buddha Dharma. No difference. A mind that views things in this way is called a joyful mind. Kind mind, parental mind. Without regard for yourself. Care for everything as if you were a parent. The person who arouses this spirit is fully conscious of it. A person who cultivates the spirit is one who truly awakens to it. And in the same manner, when you handle water or watch over the rice, you must sustain the caring and warmth of child rearing. Magnanimous mind. Be like a mountain, stable and impartial, exemplifying the ocean, tolerant, viewing everything from the broadest perspective. Having a magnanimous mind means being without prejudice and refusing to take sides. Means being without prejudice and refusing to take sides. A bright moon illuminates the whole ocean. The dragon's jewels are found in every wave. Looking for the moon. It's here in this wave and in the next. So how do we be good citizens no matter what we're doing? So we send out some of this here in the room, and then we send out to you guys on screen the version of the 10 Clear Mind Precepts that seemed to me kind of intimate and personal.